Indiana has been making significant medical advances for more than a century, and some of the challenges the state faced with mental health in the 18 and 1900s are even still being battled today. You can see some of the state's medical past on display at Indiana's Medical History Museum. Museum officials believe preserving the past is an important part for the future of medical treatment, but the museum has its own challenges in making that possible.
As you walk through Indiana's Medical History Museum, you'll see things like full-bodied skeletons, parts of the human brain, and autopsy tables. The museum transports you to the late 1800s when Central State Mental Hospital opened on the west side of Indianapolis.
So this is an aerial view of the hospital grounds that was taken in 1921. This is our building, 1896, the old Pathology Building.
Central State was one of the first progressive mental health hospitals of its kind. It opened during a time when medical professionals knew very little about mental disease.
And the idea was that they would treat these mental diseases as just that, a disease. You know, these were people who had something wrong with them that could potentially be fixed.
So doctors and medical students from around the world would gather in this building for lectures, live autopsy demonstrations, and to conduct research about mental health. Museum Executive Director Sarah Halter says what makes this museum so rare, though, is that nearly everything is original. These things were actually used during the 18th and 19th century and then left behind. Everything from patient records and medical equipment to photographs.
Photography was becoming an important part of medical education when this building opened, and they wanted to create teaching aids and supplement journal articles and kind of document their research. So this is a replica, if you would like to try it. The card itself is original. You could kind of expose them to these symptoms of diseases so they would recognize them in patients.
The Pathology Building opened as a museum in 1968, but it wasn't until 1994 that the hospital completely shut down following abuse allegations and funding problems. But Halter says the history serves an important purpose for the present and even the future.
Not just this building, but the whole site, the whole former grounds of the hospital is kind of a tangible reminder of a time when, doctors were trying to get away from the idea that these people were bad, that they should be treated like criminals, and kind of move towards treating them as people with diseases that could be helped.
It's an issue communities struggle with to this day as residents battle addiction and other mental health disorders. Jails are crowded with those suffering mental disease. Not only are museum officials battling to preserve the history, though, they're also fighting to preserve the physical building that holds it. The building is funded primarily through donations and admission fees.
We hired an architectural firm to do an assessment of the building, and what we got back was a binder about an inch thick full of things that were wrong with the building, and so some of it is pretty severe.
Officials launched a capital campaign in 2015 to fix several issues with the roof, the HVAC, and electrical systems, among other things. But there is good news. The museum is already a third of the way to its goal with the campaign, and attendance has risen significantly in the last few years, anywhere from 10 to 25% each year since 2014. Last year, the museum welcomed 8,200 visitors.
We want to save this building. We want this building to still exist for future generations. It's an incredible piece of history, and if lost, it can't be replaced. So that's really our focus right now.
For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Lindsay Wright.
The museum has a rather large collection of donated items in storage. Officials hope to expand in the future by opening a more traditional style museum, but for now, the focus is on saving the museum that's currently open.